The ground shook again. Zethka pressed his long fingers against the rough stone wall of the underground shelter. The explosions were getting closer, much closer than yesterday. "How many are left up there?" he asked Nelvo, who sat hunched over. The old communication device, the machine sparked and hissed. Most of its parts were broken now. "Maybe 200 fighters," Nelvo replied without looking up. Her voice was tired. She had been sending distress calls for 3 weeks. No one had answered. Not once. Zethka closed his eyes. 200 fighters. That was all they had left to protect 3,000 colonists. The Vrakari had started with 5,000 soldiers. Now they had many more. Ships kept bringing fresh. Troops from their home world. The Altarian colony on Kepler 442b had been peaceful for 50 years. They mined rare crystals from the deep caves and sent them to other planets. They grew food in the green valleys. They raised their children under the warm yellow sun. They never hurt anyone, but the Vakari didn't care about that. They wanted the planet. They wanted the crystals. They wanted the Altarians gone. Another explosion rocked the shelter. Dust fell from the ceiling. The children started crying again. Their mothers held them close and whispered soft words that didn't mean anything anymore. That Z-E-T Kutch walked through the long tunnels carved into the rock. The shelters went deep underground. His people had built them when the attacks first started. They thought the war would last a few days, maybe a week. That was 4 months ago. He found Dex Rowe in the weapon storage room. The old miner was checking their guns. Most of them were mining tools that had been changed to shoot at enemies instead of cutting rock. "The north tunnel is lost," Dex Rowe said. His face was covered in dirt and blood. "The Vakari broke through an hour ago. We sealed it with explosives, but they'll dig through by morning." Zethka nodded. He had expected this. The Vakari were good at war. They had fought many battles. Before, they had destroyed many worlds. The Altarians had never fought anyone. "What about the children?" Zethka asked. 7 shuttles are ready. We can fit maybe 400 children and some adults to watch them. The rest." Dexro didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The rest would stay. The rest would die. Zetka walked back to the main shelter. Families sat together on the cold stone floor. They shared their last bits of food. They told stories to keep the children calm. They tried to smile, but their eyes were full of fear. Nelvo was still at her communication station. She had been there for days. She barely ate. She barely slept. She just kept sending the same message over and over again. "This is Colony Administrator Zethka of the Altarian settlement on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by the Vakari Empire. 3,000 civilians need immediate help. Our defenses are failing. Please respond. Please help us." But no one came. No one even answered. The Galactic Council had said they would protect small colonies. They had made promises. They had signed papers. But when the Vakari attacked, the Council ships were always somewhere else, fighting other wars, protecting other worlds. Never here. Zeth sat down beside Nelvo. She looked at him with her large, purple eyes. She was young. Too young to die in a war she never wanted. "Any response?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. She shook her head. "The communication tower fell this morning. I'm using backup power. The signal is weak. Maybe no one can hear us anymore." Above them, the sounds of battle grew louder. The Vakari were pushing closer to the shelter entrances. Their weapons made sharp cracking sounds. Their soldiers shouted in their harsh language. They were excited. They could smell victory. War Commander Grexnall led the Vakari forces. He was tall and strong, with thick armor and many weapons. He enjoyed killing. He had told the colonists this in his first message. He said he would make their deaths slow and painful. He said he would save the children for last. The Altarians were not fighters. They were peaceful people who loved art and music and growing things. They had never learned to hate. Even now, facing death, they could not understand why the Vrakari wanted to hurt them. Zeth-Ka stood up. He had to make the hard choice. The choice he had been avoiding for days. Prepare the shuttles, he told Dexro. Take the children tonight. All of them. Take some adults to care for them. Find a safe place far from here. What about you? Dexro asked. We stay. We fight. We buy time for the shuttles to escape. Dexro grabbed Zeth-Ka's arm. You can't save everyone. Come with us. Live to fight. Another day. Zeth-Ka pulled free. Someone has to stay. Someone has to try. If we all run, the Vrakari will follow. They will hunt down the shuttles. At least if we fight here, we can keep their attention. The ground shook again. This time, pieces of rock fell from the ceiling. The main support beams groaned. The shelter was not built to survive this kind of attack. Nelvo suddenly sat up straight. Her communication device was making a new sound. A sound she had not heard in weeks. Wait, she whispered. Something's coming through. The sound was faint, broken, but it was there. A voice, speaking in a language she had never heard before. This is reconnaissance vessel. Receiving your transmission. Calculating position. Help is coming. Double quotes. The voice faded. Static filled the air. Then silence. Nel-Vo stared at the machine. Her hands shook as she tried to tune the frequency. Did you hear that? Did you hear what I heard? Zeth-Ka knelt beside her. What did it say? Someone answered. Someone is coming. But even as hope flickered in their hearts, the explosions grew closer. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, casting red shadows on the walls. Outside, the Vrakari had begun there. Final assault. Time was running out. Help was coming, but would it arrive in time? Or would the Altarians be dead before their saviors could find them? In the darkness, 3,000 people held their breath and waited for either salvation or death. 3 light years away, Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm went off. The sharp sound echoed through the small bridge of the UE Stormbreaker. Coffee splashed onto his uniform as he jumped up from his chair. What's the problem? He called out. Lisa Park looked up from her communication station. Her face was pale. Sir, I'm picking up a distress signal. It's weak, but it's definitely there. Jake walked over to her station. The Stormbreaker was a science ship, not a warship. They explored new star systems and looked for planets where humans might live someday. They were not supposed to find anyone else out here. Are you sure it's a distress signal? Jake asked. Lisa nodded. She pressed a button, and strange sounds filled the bridge. The words were in a language no human had ever heard. But the tone was clear. Someone was scared. Someone needed help. How far away is it coming from? Jake asked. Tony Ross, the ship's navigator, checked his instruments. About 3 light years, Captain. The Kepler 442 system. We surveyed it last year. There were no signs of intelligent life. Jake frowned. Well, there are now. Lisa, can you clean up that signal? Lisa worked at her station for several minutes. The ship's computer was very smart, but it had never heard this language before. Slowly, the static began to fade. The alien words became clearer. I'm running it through every language database. We have, Lisa said. The computer is trying to find patterns. Dr. Amy Chun, the ship's science officer, joined them on the bridge. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind. What do we know about this signal? It's been broadcasting. For about 3 weeks, Lisa replied. The same message over and over. The computer thinks it's some kind of emergency broadcast. Amy studied the readings. The signal strength is dropping. Either they're running out of power, or... She didn't finish the sentence. Jake knew what she meant. Or they were running out of time. Pete Walsh, the chief engineer, came up from the engine room. He was a big man with oil-stained hands and a loud voice. "Captain, I heard the alarm. Are we in trouble?" "Not us," Jake said. "But someone else might be." The computer suddenly made a happy beeping sound. Lisa's eyes went wide. "Captain, I think. We've got it." The computer found enough patterns to start translating. She played the message again. This time, a mechanical voice spoke in English. "This is Colony Administrator Seth Ka of the Altarian settlement on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by the Vrakari Empire. 3,000 civilians need immediate help. Our defenses are failing. Please respond. Please help us." The bridge went quiet. Everyone stared at the speakers. They had just heard the first message from an alien species, and it was a cry for help. 3,000 people, Amy whispered. And someone is attacking them. Jake felt something cold in his stomach. First contact with aliens was supposed to be a happy moment. Scientists and diplomats would meet. They would exchange gifts and learn about each other. They would become friends. This was not that kind of first contact. "Tony, how long would it take to get there?" Jake asked. Tony checked his instruments. "At maximum speed, about 6 hours." "And how long would it take to get a message to Earth?" "Command? 2 weeks for the message to reach them. 2 more weeks for a response. Another month for a fleet to get here." Jake looked around the bridge. His crew of 47 people were scientists, engineers, and explorers. They had never been in a fight. The Stormbreaker had some basic weapons, but they were meant for clearing space debris, not fighting enemy ships. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "the signal is getting weaker. I think they're running out of time." Jake closed his eyes. He thought about his orders. He was supposed to explore and report back. He was not supposed to get involved in alien wars. But he also thought about the voice in the message. Someone was scared. Someone needed help. "Maria," he called out. Maria Lopez was the ship's security chief. She was a former soldier who had joined the exploration service to see new worlds. She appeared on the bridge quickly. "Yes, Captain? If we went into a combat situation, what could we do?" Maria looked surprised. "Against who?" "Unknown enemy. They've been attacking a peaceful colony for weeks. We don't know how many ships they have or what weapons they use." Maria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Captain, we're not a warship. We have 47 people. Most of them are scientists. Our weapons are designed for mining and clearing space junk. But could we help?" Maria looked at the faces around her. She saw Lisa, who was still trying to clean up the alien signal. She saw Amy, who was studying the readings with her scientific mind. She saw Pete, who could fix anything. She saw Tony, who knew every star in this part of space. "Maybe," she said. "If we're smart about it, if we're lucky." Jake nodded. He pressed a button that would send his voice through the whole ship. "All hands, this is the captain. Report to the main deck for an emergency meeting." Within minutes, all 47 crew members were gathered in the ship's main room. Jake stood in front of them and told them about the signal. He told them about the aliens who needed help. He told them about the choice they had to make. "We're not soldiers," he said. "We're explorers. But we've discovered something terrible. Innocent people are dying, and we're the only ones who can help them." Dr. Chun spoke up. "What about the Prime Directive?" "We're not supposed to interfere in alien conflicts." Jake had been thinking about that. The Prime Directive says we don't interfere in normal alien development. But this isn't normal. This is genocide. If we do nothing, an entire species might die. Pete raised his hand. Captain, what can we actually do? We have mining lasers and scientific equipment. We're not fighters. That's what we need to figure out, Jake said. Pete, could you modify our equipment? Turn our mining lasers into weapons? Pete scratched his head. Maybe. The mining lasers are pretty powerful. And we have those deep space probes. I could turn them into missiles. Maria, could you train the crew for combat? Maria looked around the room. She saw engineers and scientists and computer specialists. She saw people who had never held a weapon. But she also saw determination in their eyes. I can try, she said. We have some basic training equipment. And everyone here is smart. They learn fast. Jake looked at his crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy. They had explored dangerous worlds and faced unknown dangers. They trusted him to make the right choice. I won't order anyone to do this, he said. This is volunteer only. If you want to help, stay. If you want to go back to Earth, I understand. Nobody moved. Not one person left the room. Lisa stood up. Captain, I've been listening to that signal for hours. I can hear the fear in their voices. They're dying, and they don't know why. If we can help them, we have to try. One by one, the other crew members nodded. They were scared, but they were also angry. Somewhere out there, innocent people were being killed, and they were the only ones who could stop it. All right, Jake said. Tony, set course for the Kepler 442 system. Maximum speed. Pete, start working on those weapon modifications. Maria, begin combat training. Lisa, keep trying. To contact the aliens, let them know help is coming. As the crews scattered to their tasks, Jake remained on the bridge. He looked out at the stars and wondered what they would find when they arrived. He wondered if they would be too late. He wondered if his small crew of explorers could really make a difference. But he knew they had to try. Because that's what humans did. When someone needed help, they helped. Even if it was dangerous. Even if it seemed impossible. The Stormbreaker turned toward the Kepler 442 system and began its race against time. The Stormbreaker dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge and stared at the main screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Dozens of enemy ships surrounded the planet. They were big and dark, with sharp edges and glowing red lights. They fired their weapons at the planet's surface again and again. Each blast lit up the darkness of space like deadly fireworks. My God, whispered Dr. Amy Chun. How many ships are there? Tony. Ross checked his instruments. I count 37 vessels. Most of them are warships. They have the planet completely surrounded. Jake watched the bombardment continue. Every few seconds, another explosion bloomed on the planet's surface. Somewhere down there, the aliens who had sent the distress call were trying to survive. Lisa, can you contact the colony? Jake asked. Lisa worked at her communication station. The signal is very weak, Captain. One think most of their communication equipment has been destroyed. Jake felt a moment of despair. They had traveled 3 light years to help, but they had arrived too late. The colony was probably already destroyed. Then Lisa suddenly sat up straight. Wait, I'm getting something. It's faint, but it's there. She adjusted the controls, and a voice came through the speakers. It was weak and full of static, but they could understand it. This is Nelvo of the Altarian colony. Is someone there? Please respond. Jake grabbed the microphone. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Human Federation ship Stormbreaker. We received your distress call. We're here to help. There was a long pause. Then Nelvo's voice came back, stronger now. Humans? We have never heard of humans. But you came. You actually came. Jake could hear the relief in her voice. And something else. Hope? How many survivors are there? Jake asked. About 2,000 in the underground shelters. But the Vakari are breaking through our defenses. We have maybe a few hours before they reach us. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting for orders. They all knew the situation was hopeless. One small exploration ship against 37 warships. It was suicide, but Jake had made his choice 6 hours ago. They were here to help, no matter the sin. Cost. Pete, are the weapon modifications ready? Jake asked. Pete Walsh nodded. The mining lasers are now focused beam weapons. They're much more powerful than before. And I've converted 20 scientific probes into guided missiles. Maria, how's the crew training going? Maria Lopez looked grim. They're ready, Captain. They're scared, but they're ready. Jake turned to Tony. Can you get us close to the planet without being detected? Tony studied his navigation displays. There's an asteroid field on the far side of the system. I can use it for cover. But once we attack, they'll know we're here. That's the plan, Jake said. We hit them hard and fast. Cause as much damage as possible. Dr. Chon looked worried. Captain, we're heavily outnumbered. Even with our modifications. We can't fight all those ships. We don't have to fight all of them, Jake replied. We just have to hurt them enough to make them reconsider. Show them this won't be an easy victory. Jake opened a channel to the whole ship. All hands, this is the captain. We're going into battle. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But down on that planet, 2,000 innocent people are counting on us. We're going to give them a fighting chance. The Stormbreaker moved carefully through the asteroid field. The ship's stealth systems were designed to hide them from detection while they studied planets. Now they were using those same systems to approach an enemy fleet. Lisa continued talking to Nelvo, gathering information about the enemy forces. The Vakari have been attacking for months, she told Jake. They want the planet for its rare mineral deposits. They don't care about the colonists. What about their ground forces? Jake asked. About 5,000 soldiers. They're well-armed and experienced. The colonists are just miners and farmers. They've been fighting with converted mining equipment. Jake felt anger building in his chest. These Vakari were bullies, attacking innocent people who couldn't fight back. Well, they were about to learn what happened when bullies met someone who could fight back. Captain, Tony said quietly, wearing position. The asteroid field is hiding us from their sensors. Jake looked at the enemy fleet on the main screen. The ships were spread out around the planet, confident in their overwhelming advantage. They had no idea a human ship was watching them. Maria, take your team to the shuttle bay. Be ready for boarding actions. Maria nodded and left the bridge with 6 crew members. They were armed with the ship's emergency weapons and some tools. Pete had modified for combat. Lisa, open a channel to the enemy fleet. All frequencies. Lisa's fingers flew over her controls. Channel open, Captain. Jake took a deep breath. This was it. He was about to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy. He hoped he was making the right choice. Attention Vakari fleet. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Human Federation vessel Stormbreaker. You are attacking innocent civilians. Cease your bombardment immediately and withdraw from this system. The response came quickly. A harsh voice speaking in broken English filled the bridge. Human ship, you are trespassing in Vakari space. You have no authority here. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Jake recognized the voice of someone used to being obeyed. Someone who had never been challenged. This is your final warning, Jake said. Stop the attack or we will stop you. The alien voice laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. You are one small ship. We are many. You will die quickly. Jake nodded to Tony. Take us out of the asteroid field. Let them see us. The Stormbreaker emerged from hiding and moved toward this enemy fleet. On the main screen, they could see the Vakari ships turning to face them. The nearest warship was 10 times their size. Target the lead ship, Jake ordered. Pete, prepare the modified mining lasers. Lasers ready, Captain. Lisa, record this message and broadcast it to the colony. Tell them help has arrived. Jake watched the enemy ship growing larger on the screen. In a few seconds, they would be in weapons range. His crew of 47 explorers and scientists was about to fight a war. All stations, battle stations. Jake announced, "This is for the colonists. This is for every innocent person who has ever been attacked by bullies. Show them what humans can do." The Vakari warship fired first. Red energy beams lanced out toward the Stormbreaker. But Tony was already moving, using the ship's maneuvering thrusters to dodge the incoming fire. "Return fire!" Jake shouted. The modified mining lasers blazed to life. Blue-white beams of concentrated energy struck the enemy ship's shields. The shields flickered and failed under the unexpected power of the human weapons. "Direct hit," Pete called out. "Their shields are down." The Vakari ship tried to turn away, but the Stormbreaker was much faster. Tony used the ship's superior maneuverability to stay behind the enemy vessel, where most of its weapons couldn't reach. "Launch missiles." Jake ordered .4 of Pete's converted probes streaked toward the enemy ship. They struck the hull with devastating force, tearing holes in the armor and causing internal explosions. On the communication channel, they could hear confused voices speaking in the Vakari language. The enemy commanders were trying to understand what was happening. "How are we doing so much damage?" Dr. Chon asked. "Their weapons are designed for long-range bombardment," Jake explained. "They're not used to close combat, and our mining lasers are much more focused than their military weapons." The first Vakari ship began to drift, its engines damaged and its weapons offline. But there were 36 more ships in the fleet, and they were all turning toward the Stormbreaker. "Captain," Lisa said urgently, "I'm getting a message from the colony. The ground bombardment has stopped. The Vakari are confused by our attack." Jake smiled grimly. "Good. That gives the colonists more time. Tony, prepare for evasive maneuvers. We're about to have a lot of company." The battle for Kepler 442b was just beginning. One human ship against an entire alien fleet. The odds were impossible, but Jake and his crew were determined to fight. They had come too far to give up now. The Stormbreaker turned toward the next enemy ship, ready to show the galaxy what humans would do to protect innocent life. The Stormbreaker moved through the Vakari fleet like a deadly dance. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as the ship twisted and turned between the enemy vessels. Tony Ross flew like a man possessed, using every trick he had learned. In 20 years of piloting, incoming missiles. Dr. Amy Chun called out from her station. "I see them," Tony replied calmly. He rolled the ship sideways and dove toward the planet's surface. The Vakari missiles followed, but they were too slow. Tony led them into the upper atmosphere, where they burned up in the planet's air. "Nice flying," Jake said. "Pete, how are our weapons?" Pete Walsh grinned from the engineering station. "The mining lasers are working perfectly. Better than I hoped. And we still have 16 missiles left." Jake watched the tactical display. They had damaged or destroyed 6 enemy ships, but there were still over 30 left. The Vakari were learning to work together, trying to trap the human ship between multiple vessels. "Lisa, what's the status on the colony?" Jake asked. "The ground bombardment has completely stopped," Lisa Park reported. "The Vakari ground forces are confused. Some of them are pulling back to defensive positions. That was good news. Every minute the bombardment was stopped gave the colonists more time to survive. "Captain," Maria Lopez's voice came over the communicator. "We're ready for the boarding action." Jake had been thinking about this. The Vrakari ships were too big and too heavily armed to destroy with their limited weapons. But maybe they could capture one. "Maria, take your team to Shuttle Bay 2. We're going to try something crazy." Jake turned to Tony. "Can you get us close to that command ship, the big one with all the communication arrays?" Tony studied the tactical display. "It's heavily defended, but if we come at it from the planet's shadow, we might surprise them." "Do it." The Stormbreaker dove toward the planet, using its gravity to accelerate. The ship's hull began to glow as they skimmed the upper atmosphere. Then Tony pulled up sharply, using the planet's gravity to slingshot them toward the command ship. "There." "Not expecting this," Amy said, watching the enemy ship on the main screen. "Their weapons are designed for long-range combat. They can't track us at this distance." Jake opened a channel to the shuttle bay. "Maria, your go for launch. Remember, we need their communication system intact." "Understood, Captain." The shuttle bay doors opened, and Maria's team launched in two of the ship's scientific shuttles. Pete had modified them with extra armor and weapons. They weren't proper assault craft, but they would have to do. "Cover the shuttles," Jake ordered. "Give them a path to the command ship." The Stormbreaker's weapons blazed to life. The mining lasers cut through the vacuum of space, striking the command ship's defensive turrets. The focused beams were incredibly precise, destroying weapon systems without damaging the ship's hull. "This is crazy," Amy muttered. "We're actually winning." Jake watched the shuttles approach the command ship. The Vrakari were trying to stop them, but the human ship was providing too much covering fire. The enemy couldn't concentrate on both threats at once. "Shuttles are docking," Lisa reported. Maria's team is boarding the command ship. On the communication channel, they could hear the sounds of fighting. Maria and her team were moving through the enemy ship, using modified tools and emergency weapons against trained soldiers. "Lisa, start jamming their communications," Jake ordered. "I want them confused and scared." Lisa's fingers flew over her controls. Suddenly, the Vrakari communication channels filled with static and noise. But that wasn't all. She began broadcasting something else on their frequencies. Human music. Loud, aggressive battle songs from Earth's history. The fierce sounds of drums and electric guitars filled the enemy channels. "What is that noise?" came a panicked voice in the Vrakari language. "It's psychological warfare," Jake explained to his crew. "The Vrakari have never heard anything like human music. It's designed to pump up our adrenaline and make us fight harder. To them, it probably sounds like the roar of monsters." The effect was immediate. The enemy ships began to move more erratically. Their formation broke apart as individual captains tried to escape the terrifying sounds. "Captain," Maria's voice came over the radio, "we've reached the command center. There are about 20 Vrakari in here, but they're surrendering. I think our music scared them." Jake smiled. "Good work. Can you access their communication system?" "Pete's modifications are working perfectly. I can broadcast on all their frequencies." "Do it. Send them false orders. Tell them to retreat." For the next few minutes, the Vrakari fleet received conflicting orders. Some ships were told to attack the planet. Others were told to retreat. A few were ordered to attack their own allies. The result was chaos. Several enemy ships collided as they tried to follow contradictory orders. Others began firing on each other, thinking they were traitors. "Dr. Chun, can you coordinate with the colonists?" Jake asked. "They might be able to help with ground targets." Amy opened a channel to the colony. "Nelvo, this is Dr. Chun on the human ship. Can you identify?" Vakari ground positions for us? Yes, came the reply. We've been watching them for months. I can send you their coordinates. Jake watched the information come in. The Vakari had concentrated their forces around the colony's main entrances. They were preparing for a final assault. Tony, can you give us a low pass over the colony? Jake asked. I can do better than that, Tony replied. I can thread us through their mountain range. Use the terrain to hide our approach. The Stormbreaker dove toward the planet's surface again. This time, they stayed low, flying between the mountains and valleys. The ship's sensors mapped every Vakari position. Targets acquired, Pete announced. I have clear shots on their ground. Forces, Lisa, warn the colonists take cover, Jake ordered. We're coming in hot. The human ship burst over the colony like a thunderbolt. The mining lasers struck with surgical precision, hitting Vakari positions while avoiding the areas. Where colonists were hiding, the effect was devastating. The Vakari ground forces had never faced an attack from above. Their weapons were designed for fighting other ground troops, not spacecraft. Direct hits on all targets, Pete reported. The ground forces are scattering. Jake opened a channel. To the colony. This is Captain Morrison. The immediate threat to your shelters has been eliminated. But we're not done yet. From the planet's surface, Zethka's voice came back strong and clear. Captain Morrison, we cannot thank you enough. But there are still many enemy ships in orbit. We know, Jake replied. We're working on that. Jake looked at the tactical display. They had reduced the enemy fleet by nearly half, but there were still 15 ships left. And those ships were finally getting organized. Captain, Lisa said. Urgently, the remaining Vakari ships are forming up. They're going to try to overwhelm us with a coordinated attack. Jake nodded. This was what he had been expecting. The Vakari were done being confused and scared. Now they were angry. All stations, prepare for the final battle, Jake announced. Maria, get back to the ship. We're going to need all hands. On our way, Captain. The Stormbreaker climbed away. From the planet's surface, preparing to face the remaining enemy fleet. 15 ships against one. The odds were still terrible, but they had already accomplished the impossible. Tony, remember what I taught you about fighter tactics, Jake said. Stay mobile. Don't let them pin us down. Understood, Captain. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were exhausted, but they were also determined. They had come here to save innocent lives, and they weren't going to quit now. Lisa, send a message to the colony. Tell them to get ready for evacuation if we don't make it. Yes, sir. Jake opened a channel to the Vakari fleet. This is Captain Morrison. You've lost half your ships to one human vessel. I'm offering you one last chance to retreat. The response came from War Commander Grexnall himself. His voice was filled with rage and hatred. Human, you have humiliated the Vakari Empire. For that, you will die slowly. We'll see about that, Jake replied. The final battle was about to begin. The Stormbreaker turned toward the enemy fleet, ready to face whatever came next. They had already saved the colony, but now they had to save themselves. The storm was far from over. The 15 remaining Vakari ships moved toward the Stormbreaker in a tight formation. War Commander Grexnall had learned from his earlier mistakes. No more single ships attacking alone. No more confusion. This time, they would surround the human vessel and destroy it with overwhelming firepower. Captain Jake Morrison watched them approach on the main screen. His crew had been fighting for 6 hours straight. They were tired, but they were not beaten. Tony, remember the asteroid field where we started? Jake asked. Tony Ross nodded. You want to lead them back there? Exactly. Those rocks might help even the odds. The Stormbreaker turned away from the planet and headed for the asteroid field. The Vakari fleet followed, thinking the humans were trying to escape. They're taking the bait, Dr. Amy Chun reported. All 15 ships are pursuing us. Jake smiled grimly. Good. Lisa, can you contact Maria's shuttle? Yes, Captain. They're still in the captured command ship. Tell them to stay hidden. When the shooting starts, I want them to cause more confusion in the enemy ranks. The Stormbreaker entered the asteroid field with the enemy fleet close behind. Tony began weaving between the floating rocks, using his superior knowledge of the area to his advantage. Pete, how many missiles do we have left? Jake asked. 12, Captain. And the mining lasers are still at full power. Jake nodded. Save the missiles for the big targets. We'll need them. The first Vrakari ship entered the asteroid field and immediately crashed into a large rock. The pilot had been so focused on chasing the human ship that he hadn't watched where he was going. 1 down, 14 to go, Amy said, but the other enemy ships were more careful. They spread out and moved slowly through the asteroids, keeping their weapons trained on the Stormbreaker. Multiple targets acquiring lock, Lisa warned. They're going to fire everything at once. Not if I can help it, Tony muttered. He dove the ship toward a cluster of large asteroids. Just as the enemy opened fire, red energy beams filled the space where the Stormbreaker had been. Instead of hitting the human ship, they struck the asteroids. The rocks exploded in spectacular fashion, sending fragments flying in all directions. Several of those fragments struck the nearest Vrakari ships, damaging their hulls and shields. Return fire. Jake ordered. The Stormbreaker's weapons blazed. To life, the mining lasers cut through the debris field and struck 2 enemy ships. One lost its main engines and began drifting helplessly. The other exploded when the beam hit its weapon storage. Direct hits, Pete called out. 2 more down. But the remaining 12 ships were learning to use the asteroids for cover, just like the humans. The battle became a deadly game of hide and seek among the floating rocks. Captain, Maria's voice came over the radio. We're in position, ready to cause trouble. Do it, Jake replied. From inside the captured command ship, Maria and her team began broadcasting new false orders. But this time, they were smarter about it. Instead of obvious contradictions, they sent subtle commands that made the Vrakari ships move into dangerous positions. Ship 7, adjust your position 2 degrees starboard, Maria's voice said in perfect Vrakari language. Thanks to the ship's translation computer, the Vrakari ship obeyed without question. It moved directly into the path of another vessel's weapons. When that ship fired at the Stormbreaker, it accidentally hit its own ally instead. Excellent work, Maria, Jake said. Keep it up. The battle continued for another hour. The Stormbreaker used its speed and agility to stay ahead of the enemy, striking when it could and hiding when it had to. The Vrakari ships, designed for overwhelming firepower, struggled to fight in the confined space of the asteroid field. One by one, the enemy vessels were destroyed or disabled. Some fell victim to the human ship's precise weapons. Others were tricked into destroying each other by Maria's false commands. A few simply crashed into asteroids while trying to maneuver in the unfamiliar terrain. Finally, only 3 ships remained. War Commander Grex Null's flagship and 2 escort vessels. Captain, Lisa said, I'm receiving a transmission from the enemy commander. Put it through, Jake replied. Grex Null's voice filled the bridge. For the first time, he sounded uncertain. Human Captain, you have fought well, but this ends now. Surrender, and I will give you a quick death. Jake picked up the microphone. War Commander, you came here to destroy innocent people. You've lost most of your fleet to one small ship. I think it's time for you to surrender. There was a long pause. Then Grex Null's voice came back, filled with rage. Never. The Vrakari. Empire does not surrender to inferior species. Then you've made your choice, Jake said sadly. The final battle was brief. The 3 remaining Vakari ships tried to surround the Stormbreaker, but they were too few and too damaged. Tony flew circles around them, while Pete's weapons picked them apart piece by piece. The last escort ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Grex Knoll's flagship, its engines destroyed and its weapons offline, began to drift toward a large asteroid. "This is your last chance," Jake broadcast to the enemy. "Commander, abandon ship. I won't let you die if you surrender." But there was no response. The Vakari flagship struck the asteroid and broke apart. War Commander Grex Knoll had chosen death over defeat. The battle was over. The Stormbreaker floated alone among the asteroids, surrounded by the wreckage of the enemy fleet. After 8 hours of continuous fighting, the silence felt strange. "All enemy ships destroyed or disabled," Amy reported quietly. "The planet is secure." Jake slumped in his command chair. They had done it. 47 humans in one small ship had defeated an entire invasion fleet. It seemed impossible, but it had happened. "Lisa, contact the colony. Tell them they're safe." Few minutes later, Zethka's voice came over the speakers. "Captain Morrison, we don't know how to thank you. You saved our entire species." "You don't need to thank us," Jake replied. "We just did what was right." Over the next few days, the Stormbreaker helped the colonists repair their settlements and tend to their wounded. Dr. Chun worked with Altarian scientists to establish proper communication protocols. Pete helped fix their power systems and communication equipment. The humans learned about Altarian culture and history. The aliens had been peaceful for thousands of years, focusing on art, science, and philosophy. They had never imagined that species like the Vakari existed. "Your people are remarkable," Sethka told Jake during one of their meetings. "You risked everything to help strangers. We have never encountered such courage." Jake shrugged. "We couldn't just stand by and watch genocide happen. That's not who we are." Nelvo, the young communication officer who had sent the original distress call, became fascinated with human technology and culture. She spent hours with Lisa, learning about Earth and its people. "I want to be an ambassador," she told Jake. "I want to help our species become friends." On the 4th day, long-range sensors detected new ships approaching the system. Jake was concerned until he recognized the energy signatures. They were human vessels Admiral Susan Blake arrived with. A full fleet of Earth Defense Force ships. She was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had come expecting to find the Stormbreaker destroyed and the colony in ruins. Instead, she found a peaceful planet where humans and aliens were working together to rebuild. "Captain Morrison," she said when she beamed aboard the Stormbreaker, "your report makes for interesting reading." "One exploration ship against an entire enemy fleet?" "Yes, ma'am," Jake replied. "We couldn't just stand by and watch." Admiral Blake looked around the bridge at Jake's crew. They were still tired from the battle, but they were proud of what they had accomplished. "You broke about 50 regulations," she said sternly. Then she smiled. "And I couldn't be more proud of you." The Admiral's fleet took up defensive positions around the planet, while diplomats from Earth began formal first contact procedures with the Altarians. Nelvo was chosen as the first Altarian ambassador to humanity, while Lisa volunteered to stay as the human representative on Kepler 442b. 3 weeks later, Jake stood on the observation deck of the Stormbreaker, watching construction crews building a joint human-Altarian space station in orbit. Ships from both species worked side by side, the beginning of what would become a strong alliance. "Captain," Amy Chun said, joining him at the window, "we've received new orders. Earth Command wants us to explore the Centauri sector. Apparently, there have been some unusual energy readings." Jake nodded. "More aliens to meet, I suppose." "Probably," Amy agreed. Are you ready for that? Jake thought about the past month. They had made first contact with an alien species, fought and won an impossible battle, and helped establish humanity's first interstellar alliance. It had been the adventure of a lifetime, but somewhere out there, other species might need help. Other bullies might be threatening innocent people, and the Stormbreaker and her crew would be ready to respond. Set course for the Centauri sector, Jake told Tony. Let's see what else is out there. As the ship prepared to leave orbit, Jake received one final message from Zeth-Ka. Captain Morrison, the Altarian people will never forget what you did for us. You showed us that in a galaxy full of darkness, there are still those who bring light. Jake smiled as he read the message. That was what humanity was all about. When someone needed help, they helped. When someone was in trouble, they came running, even if it was dangerous.
The morning sun shone brightly over Seattle as Noah Bennett stared through his bedroom window. At 16, he worried more about school grades than the fate of humanity. His mother, Dr. Lisa Bennett, had already left for her lab at the Earth Defense Research Center. His father, Captain Frank Bennett, was somewhere in orbit commanding a patrol ship. It was the year 2097, 50 years since humans had built their first colonies beyond Earth. After nearly destroying their home planet, in the 21st century, people had worked hard to heal it. The oceans were clean again. Forests grew where there had once been bare land. Earth was beautiful once more. Noah sighed and turned away from the window. He had a science test today. His mother would be disappointed if he failed. He grabbed his bag and headed downstairs. The first sign that something was wrong came as Noah waited for the bus. His phone buzzed with an emergency alert. Then another, and another. He looked up to see people on the street staring at their devices with worried faces. All civilian transport canceled, read the alert. Return to homes or nearest shelter immediately. Noah looked up at the sky. Far above, something flashed. Then another flash, and another. He realized with a chill that he was watching explosions. In orbit, his phone rang. It was his mother. Noah, listen carefully, said Dr. Bennett. Her voice was steady but tight with fear. Don't come to the center. Go home, lock the doors, and stay away from windows. Mom, what's happening? We're under attack. Your father's fleet is engaging them now, but some of their ships have gotten through. Who's attacking us? Noah asked, his heart racing. We don't know yet. They're not human. That's all I can tell you. His mother paused. I love you. I'll come home as soon as I can. The call ended. Noah stood frozen until a deafening boom shook the ground. 5 miles to the north, a column of smoke rose from downtown Seattle. Noah ran home, ignoring the stitch in his side. The streets were filling with panicked people. Cars jammed the roads. By the time he reached his house, 3 more explosions had rocked the city. He locked the doors as his mother had instructed and turned on the television. The news showed chaotic scenes from around the world. Strange ships filled the skies over major cities. They were like nothing humans had built, organic-looking, with curves and ridges that seemed to pulse with light. They came without warning, said a shaken news anchor. Earth Defense Fleet engaged the alien vessels 1 hour ago, but many got through our defenses. Landing craft have been reported in New York, London, Beijing, Mumbai, and dozens of other cities. The feed switched to a military officer speaking from what looked like a bunker. Citizens of Earth, we are under attack by an unknown extraterrestrial force. Remain in your homes or proceed to designated shelters. This is not a drill. Noah's phone rang again. This time it was his father. Son, are you safe? Captain Bennett's voice came through static. I'm home, Dad. What's going on up there? It's bad. We've lost 1/3 of the fleet already. His father's voice was grim. These aliens have technology we've never seen before. Their ships can change shape to adapt to our weapons. Who are they? What do they want? We managed to capture some communication. They call themselves the Viridian Collective. They say Earth has resources they need. The line went dead. Noah tried to call back, but all networks were down now. He sat in the darkening house as evening fell, watching the news until broadcasts stopped too. Through his window, he could see fires burning across Seattle. The next morning, Noah woke to an eerie silence. No birds, no distant traffic, just occasional booms and the whine of strange engines overhead. He crept to the window and peered out. His neighborhood looked mostly intact, but smoke rose from downtown. And there, walking down his street, were the invaders. Noah ducked down but kept watching. The aliens were tall, at least 7 feet, with bodies covered in what looked like blue-green armor. But it wasn't armor, he realized. It was their skin, a hard exoskeleton that gleamed in the sun. Each had 4 arms and walked with an odd grace. Their heads were elongated with no visible ears but large compound eyes that shimmered with internal light. They moved from house to house, breaking doors with casual strength. Noah heard screams. Then silence. His heart pounded as they approached his home. He ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, then hid in the basement. The door above splintered. Heavy footsteps moved through his house. Then his phone vibrated. A text from his mother. "Coming to get you. Be ready to run." "Be ready to." 5 minutes later, a car horn beeped twice outside. Noah ran up the stairs and through the empty house. The aliens had moved on to the next street. His mother's lab car waited outside, its electric engine nearly silent. He jumped in. "Mom." "Doctor." Bennett looked exhausted, her lab coat stained and torn. "Are you hurt?" she asked, already driving away. "No." "Where are we going?" "The research center has a bunker. We've converted it to a command post." She drove carefully, avoiding main roads. "Your father is alive. His ship was damaged but made it to the Mars base." "What's happening, Mom? Why are they here?" Dr. Bennett's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "They want Earth's biosphere, specific compounds in our plants and animals that they need. Their message said their homeworlds are dying. So they're just going to take our planet? Not if we stop them." His mother's voice hardened. "I've been studying the data from the initial encounters. These Viridians have a unique biology. Their exoskeletons are nearly impenetrable, but I found a potential weakness. They drove past scenes of destruction. Alien ships had landed in parks and squares. The strange 4-armed soldiers patrolled the streets, herding captured humans. Into collection points, how many of them are there? Noah asked. "Thousands on Earth already, probably millions in their fleet." She swerved to avoid debris. "But we don't need to kill them all. I think we can create a biological agent that affects their neural systems, something that could change their behavior without killing them." Noah stared at his mother. "You want to change how they think?" "It's better than extinction, theirs or ours." Dr. Bennett's face was grim. "Your father is leading a mission to deploy the agent once we develop it." They reached the research center, driving through a hidden entrance in what looked like a collapsed building. Inside, soldiers guarded a maze of corridors leading to an underground facility. Scientists worked frantically at labs and computers. Military personnel plotted on maps showing alien positions worldwide. The Viridians now controlled most major cities. Noah sat in his mother's lab as she worked, bringing her coffee and food when she forgot to eat. Days passed in a blur of fear and hope. 2 weeks after the invasion began, Dr. Bennett finally looked up from her work with red-rimmed eyes and a smile. "I think we've got it," she said. "A compound that will bind to their neural receptors. It won't kill them, but it should stop the aggression." "What will it do to them?" Noah asked. His mother hesitated. "We're not entirely sure, but we're out of options, Noah. The Viridians have taken half the planet. At this rate, we'll be extinct in months." That night, Noah watched as his mother's formula was loaded onto military drones. His father, communicating from Mars, confirmed that the space fleet was ready for a coordinated attack to deploy the agent worldwide. As Noah fell into an exhausted sleep on a cot in the lab, he wondered what Earth would look like when he woke. Would the aliens be gone? Dead? Or something else entirely? He didn't yet know that his mother's formula would work in ways no one had predicted, forever changing the relationship between humans and the species that came to conquer them. Noah woke to the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed in the research center's bunker. People ran through the halls, shouting orders. He sat up on his cot, heart racing. "Mom?" he called. But Dr. Bennett wasn't in the lab. Lieutenant Adam Clark, a young officer who had been working with his mother, rushed in. His uniform was dirty and his eyes were wide with fear. "Noah, we need to move. The Viridians found us. They're breaking through the upper levels." Noah grabbed his backpack and followed Adam through crowded corridors. Scientists carried computers and samples. Soldiers set up defensive positions. "Where's my mom?" Noah shouted over the noise. "She's with the team securing the formula." "Don't worry, she'll meet us at the evacuation point." A massive boom shook the facility. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're through the main door," someone yelled. Adam pulled Noah down a side passage. "This way. There's a tunnel that leads to the harbor." They ran with a group of 20 others. Behind them, gunfire erupted. Then came the strange, high-pitched sound of Viridian weapons. People screamed. The tunnel was dark and narrow. They moved as fast as they could, guided by emergency lights. After what seemed like hours, they emerged into early morning light at a small dock. 3 boats waited. Dr. Bennett stood on one, frantically searching the crowd. "Noah." She hugged him tight when he reached her. "Thank God." The boat sped away. From Seattle, just as alien ships appeared over the research center. Green beams cut into the building, collapsing it in seconds. "All that work," Dr. Bennett whispered. "All our research." Adam touched her shoulder. "We got out with the formula and the deployment plans. That's what matters." They traveled north along the coast, staying close to shore to avoid detection. Noah learned they were heading to a hidden base in the mountains where Admiral Olivia Rodriguez had established a resistance command center. "Dad's mission?" Noah asked his mother quietly. "Still on. The Mars base is preparing. They'll launch as soon as we confirm the formula works." After landing at a small fishing village, they traveled by truck into the mountains. The base was inside an old military bunker, built long ago for a war that never came. Now it served humanity. In its darkest hour, Admiral Rodriguez was a tall woman with gray hair and a stern face. She greeted them in the command center, where maps showed Viridian positions across the globe. 2 months had passed since the invasion began, and Earth's situation was dire. "The aliens control 70% of major population centers," Rodriguez explained to the new arrivals. "Their ships outnumber ours 10 to 1. Conventional victory is impossible." She turned to Dr. Bennett. "Please tell me you have good news." Noah's mother placed a small case on the table and opened it. Inside were several vials of clear liquid. "The formula is ready for testing. We need a live subject." Admiral Rodriguez nodded grimly. "We have one. 2 days ago, a patrol captured a Viridian scout. The alien was held in a reinforced cell deep in the bunker. Noah followed the adults, curious. Despite his fear, he had only seen the invaders from a distance. The Viridian was even more strange up close. Its exoskeleton shimmered with faint blue light. Its 4 arms were bound to the wall. Its large compound eyes followed their movements. "Can it understand us?" Noah whispered. "Some of them have translation devices," Adam explained. "This one doesn't, but they learn languages quickly." Dr. Bennett prepared a syringe with a small amount of the formula. The agent should bind to their neural receptors, specifically those that control aggression and decision-making. "And you're sure this won't kill it?" Admiral Rodriguez asked. "No, I'm not sure of anything. This is our best hope." The Viridian watched silently as soldiers secured its head and Dr. Bennett approached with the syringe. Its exoskeleton had small, softer spots at joint areas. She injected the formula into one such spot near what appeared to be its neck. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the alien began to tremble. Its eyes flickered, changing from amber to a soft green. It made a strange purring sound. "What's happening?" Rodriguez asked. "I don't know. Its brain chemistry is changing." Dr. Bennett checked monitoring equipment they had attached to the alien. "Heart rate is stabilizing, no signs of distress." Noah moved closer, curious. The Viridian's eyes fixed on him. To everyone's surprise, it lowered its head in what looked like a bow. "Young human," it said in a halting, clicking accent. Safety. Protect. Everyone froze. It spoke English, Adam said. How is that possible? It must have been learning while in captivity. Dr. Bennett moved closer to Noah. What did you mean, Viridian? What about safety? The alien's eyes remained on Noah. Young humans must protect, must serve, is purpose. Over the next 3 days, they learned more as the Viridian continued to speak in simple phrases. The formula had done something unexpected. Instead of merely stopping aggression, it had created a new imperative in the alien's mind: to protect human young. It's like some neural pathway got rewired, Dr. Bennett explained to Admiral Rodriguez. The formula affected the bonding centers of its brain, similar to what happens in many Earth species with their offspring. So it thinks human children are its young? Rodriguez asked. Not exactly. It recognizes them as human, but it feels compelled to protect and serve them. The Admiral's face showed both hope and concern. Can we weaponize this? Deploy it against all of them? Dr. Bennett nodded slowly. I believe so. Captain Bennett's team can load it into atmospheric dispersal units. With the right delivery system, we could expose most of the Viridians on Earth within days. The plan moved quickly after that. Noah watched as his mother worked with other scientists to produce the formula in larger quantities. Communication with the Mars base confirmed that Captain Bennett's team was ready. Meanwhile, Noah spent time with their Viridian captive, now called Guardian by the base personnel. The alien seemed compelled to make sure Noah was comfortable, safe, and well-fed. It taught him words in the Viridian language and asked endless questions about human children. 1 week after they had arrived at the mountain base, the mission began. Captain Bennett led a small fleet from Mars, carrying the formula and special bombs designed to disperse it in the atmosphere. The resistance forces on Earth launched coordinated attacks to distract the Viridians and create openings for the delivery ships. Noah waited with his mother in the command center, watching dots on screens that represented human and alien ships. Dad's team is entering the atmosphere, Noah said, pointing to a cluster of dots. Admiral Rodriguez nodded. All ground teams are engaging. The Viridians are responding to the threats. For hours, they watched the battle unfold. Many human ships were lost. But enough got through. The formula bombs were dropped over major Viridian concentrations around the world. Now we wait, Dr. Bennett said softly. The first reports came in 12 hours later. Viridian forces had stopped attacking. In some places, they had laid down their weapons. In others, strange behavior was reported. Aliens approaching human shelters, but not to attack. They were seeking out children. 3 days after the formula's deployment, the Viridian commander sent a message to all human forces. We surrender. The children must be protected. Noah stood with his mother on a hill outside the base a week later. His father had returned from space, one of the lucky survivors of the mission. The family was together again, watching alien ships landing in a valley below. But these ships weren't attacking. They were landing to serve. Did we win, Mom? Noah asked. Dr. Bennett watched the ships with troubled eyes. I don't know. We stopped the invasion, but we changed an entire species against their will. I'm not sure if that makes us saviors or monsters. Captain Bennett put his arm around his wife. You saved humanity, Lisa. What happens next is up to all of us. Below them, Viridian soldiers emerged from their ships. They looked different now, their eyes green instead of amber, their movements less aggressive. When a group of refugee children approached with their parents, the aliens knelt before them in a gesture of service. The species that had come to conquer Earth now lived to serve its children. 6 months passed since the day the Viridians surrendered. Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Noah walked through the rebuilt streets of Seattle with Guardian beside him. The tall alien moved with careful grace, its 4 arms, ready to help at any moment. One carried Noah's backpack, another held the umbrella against the light rain, while the remaining 2 stayed free to respond to any danger. School day productive? Guardian asked in its clicking accent. Yeah. We learned about your star systems today, Noah replied. Guardian's eyes flickered with green light, a sign of pleasure. Good knowledge. Your people must understand our worlds. Seattle, like most cities on Earth, was now a strange mix of human and alien presence. Viridians worked everywhere, rebuilding what they had destroyed, but they no longer took orders from their own leaders. Instead, they gravitated toward places with human children. Noah's high school had 15 Viridian assistants who maintained the building, prepared food, and acted as guards. They never interfered with teaching. That remained a human job, but they created an environment where children felt completely safe. Mom wants us home early, Noah said. Some government officials are visiting. Guardian nodded and adjusted their path to a more direct route. As they walked, Noah noticed other Viridians with children. Each alien seemed dedicated to its chosen charges. Some served single children, others watched over groups. All showed the same intense focus on the young humans' safety and comfort. At home, Noah's mother was setting up equipment in their living room. After the war, Dr. Bennett had become the lead researcher on human Viridian relations. Their house served as both home and research station. There you are, she said as Noah entered. The officials will be here in an hour. They want to see your tests with Guardian. Noah nodded and went to the testing area they had set up. Guardian followed, sitting on a reinforced chair designed for Viridian anatomy. We will do language tests? Guardian asked. Yes, and some new cognitive ones, Dr. Bennett said, attaching small sensors to Guardian's head. We're trying to understand how the formula affected your thought patterns. Captain Bennett, now Admiral Bennett, entered the room. His fleet uniform looked crisp and formal. The senator's convoy is 10 minutes out, he said, kissing his wife's cheek. She's bringing the Viridian Policy Committee with her. Dr. Bennett looked nervous. They're still debating what to do? Some want to integrate the Viridians fully into society. Others want them confined to special zones. Admiral Bennett shook his head. Nobody knows what's right here. The door chime rang. Instead of government officials, it was a young woman with short red hair. Dr. Kate Wong, Dr. Bennett's research partner. Sorry I'm late, she said, rushing in with equipment. The traffic was terrible. Every Viridian in the city is helping, with the school reconstruction project. Dr. Wong set up her computers and turned to Noah. How's he doing today? She asked, nodding toward Guardian. The same. Helpful. Protective. But I caught him looking at the stars last night. I think he misses his home. Dr. Wong's face softened. We still don't know if they can ever go back to how they were. The formula changes seem permanent. The tests began simply. Guardian identified objects, solved puzzles, and answered questions about Viridian society before the invasion. His memory of his previous life remained intact, even though his priorities had completely changed. Final question for this set, Dr. Wong said. Guardian, if Noah was not here, and you were free to choose, what would you do? The alien's eyes flickered between green and amber. Find young humans who need protection. But what about your own desires? Dr. Bennett pressed. What would you want for yourself? Guardian seemed confused by the question. Want for self? Unclear. Purpose is to serve young humans. The government officials arrived during the last test. Senator Olivia Chen led the group, accompanied by military officers and scientific advisors. Noah recognized Admiral Rodriguez among them. Dr. Bennett, the senator said, thank you for hosting us. We're eager to see your research firsthand. The adults moved to the dining room to discuss policy while Noah continued working with Guardian. But he kept the door open so he could hear. The situation is unprecedented, his mother was saying. We've essentially created a symbiotic relationship between our species. The Viridians are not slaves. They retain their intelligence and skills, but their priorities have been fundamentally altered. Are they suffering? Senator Chen asked. They don't appear to be, Dr. Wong replied. Brain scans show reward centers activate when they successfully protect or help human children. They feel satisfaction in their new role. Admiral Rodriguez spoke next. But we've still removed their choice. Is that any better than what they plan to do to us? The conversation continued as Noah finished the tests. Guardian remained attentive, but Noah noticed the alien watching the adults meeting with interest. "Do you understand what they're talking about?" Noah asked quietly. Guardian's eyes dimmed slightly. "Yes. They decide our fate." "Does it bother you? What the formula did to your people?" The alien was silent for a long moment. "Different now, but alive. Your mother chose mercy. Many humans would have destroyed us all." Later that evening, after the officials had left, Noah found his mother in her lab, reviewing the day's test results. "Mom, I have a question," he said, sitting beside her. "The kids at school who spend the most time with Viridians, they're changing too, aren't they?" Dr. Bennett looked surprised. "What have you noticed?" "Jamie can solve math problems faster than before. Emma seems to know what people are feeling without them saying anything, and He hesitated. "I can sometimes tell what Guardian is thinking, even when he doesn't speak." His mother sighed and turned away from her computer. "Yes, we're seeing neurological changes in children with regular Viridian contact. Nothing harmful, quite the opposite. Enhanced cognitive abilities, stronger empathy, better emotional regulation. It seems the relationship works both ways." "So we're changing each other?" "It appears so. The formula created the initial bond, but something deeper is happening now." She rubbed her tired eyes. "The Senators' Committee is worried. They don't know if this is evolution or something else entirely." Noah thought about Guardian and the other Viridians he knew. "They're not just servants, are they? They're more like guides." "Perhaps. Or perhaps we've created something entirely new that we don't yet understand." She stood up. "The Viridian ships in orbit are still deciding whether to leave or stay. Their leaders are watching what happens here." That night, Noah couldn't sleep. He went to the backyard where Guardian often spent evenings looking at the stars. The alien was there, its bioluminescent spots glowing softly in the darkness. "Guardian, do you have a real name?" "From before." The Viridian turned its large eyes toward him. "Yes, unpronounceable for humans. Means seeker of new paths in your words." "That's a good name," Noah said. "Better than Guardian." "Names matter less than purpose," the alien replied. "My people came to take. Now we give. Perhaps better this way." Noah looked up at the stars with him. "Do you think they'll send more ships to fight us again?" "Unknown. Our leaders watch, see what becomes of us." Guardian's eyes flickered. "Young humans growing stronger with us near. We growing different with you near. New thing happening. Old leaders must decide if good or bad." As they sat in comfortable silence, Noah realized that neither humans nor Viridians fully understood what was beginning. The formula had not created servants or slaves, but something unexpected, a bridge between two species that might change both forever. Noah woke to the sound of sirens. He jumped out of bed and ran to the window. Guardian was already there, looking up at the sky. "What's happening?" Noah asked. "Ships. Many ships. Not like war vessels. Different." Guardian's voice was tense. Noah saw them then. Massive structures descending through the clouds above Seattle. Unlike the sleek, predatory ships of the invasion, these were enormous, organic-looking vessels. They resembled giant sea creatures more than spaceships, with flowing lines and pulsing lights across their surfaces. His bedroom door opened as both his parents rushed in. "Stay inside," Admiral Bennett ordered. "Defense forces are on high alert." Dr. Bennett was already on her phone talking rapidly to someone about the new arrivals. "No weapon signatures, massive biological readings, completely different. Designed from the military fleet." Guardian's eyes had changed color. Not the green of service or the amber of aggression, but a deep purple Noah had never seen before. "Matriarchs," Guardian said, his voice filled with awe. "The mothers have come." "What does that mean?" Noah asked. "Who are the matriarchs?" "True leaders, wise ones, those who guide all paths." Guardian seemed torn between staying with Noah and moving toward the window. Not military, not conquest, wisdom and future. Admiral Bennett received an emergency call and left a report to the defense headquarters. Dr. Bennett continued monitoring the situation through her research contacts. Noah and Guardian watched as the enormous ships positioned themselves above major cities around the world, but made no aggressive moves. 3 hours later, a message was broadcast simultaneously on all communication channels worldwide. The face that appeared on screens was Viridian, but unlike any Noah had seen. Larger, with more complex patterns on its exoskeleton, and eyes that swirled with multiple colors. People of Earth, the matriarch spoke in perfect English. I am Elder Mother, Fusreen, first voice of the Viridian Collective. We come in peace to address what has happened between our peoples. The message continued, explaining that the invasion force had been a rogue military faction, desperate after their homeworlds were damaged by industrial pollution. The main Viridian civilization had been searching for their missing fleet for months. We do not seek revenge for what you have done to our lost children, Vasreen said. You defended your world as any species would, but we must now determine a path forward that honors both our peoples. The matriarchs requested a meeting with Earth's leaders at a neutral location, the lunar colony. Admiral Bennett was selected as part of the delegation, along with Senator Chen and representatives from other nations. Dr. Bennett was also invited as the creator of the formula. To everyone's surprise, the matriarch specifically requested that Noah attend too. Why me? Noah asked as the family prepared for the journey. You have the strongest documented bond with a Viridian guardian, his mother explained. They want to understand the relationship from both sides. 3 days later, Noah found himself on a shuttle to the moon. Guardian came too, though the alien grew increasingly nervous as they approached the meeting place. The mothers will judge, Guardian said quietly. They see all paths. The lunar base had been expanded with temporary structures to accommodate the delegation. The main meeting hall was filled with humans on one side and Viridians on the other, the first diplomatic gathering between the species. The matriarchs were even more impressive in person. 7 of them entered, each standing nearly 9 feet. Tall with elaborate patterns on their exoskeletons that seemed to shift and change. Their forearms were longer than the male soldiers, and they moved with fluid grace despite their size. Elder Mother Vasreen approached the human delegation. Thank you for meeting with us. We must understand what has happened to make wise decisions. The formal talks began with each side sharing their perspective on the conflict. Admiral Bennett described the invasion and Earth's desperate defense. The matriarchs explained how the military faction had broken away, stealing ships and weapons after being denied permission to seize resources from inhabited worlds. Then came the difficult part, discussing the formula and its effects. Dr. Bennett stepped forward. The agent was designed to stop aggression, not to enslave. We never anticipated the bonding effect it created with human children. Vasreen's eyes shifted through colors as she responded. You altered the fundamental nature of our kind without consent. This is a grave action. We faced extinction, Senator Chen replied. We chose the least harmful option available. The matriarchs conferred among themselves in their clicking musical language. Then Vasreen turned to Noah. Young human, you have lived with one of our changed ones. Tell us what you have observed. Noah felt everyone watching him. He swallowed hard and described his time with Guardian, how the alien protected him but also taught him, how they had learned from each other, and how his own abilities had grown through their connection. He's not a slave, Noah concluded. He makes his own choices within the boundaries of his new programming. And I think I'm changing too. We all are, the kids who spend time with Viridians. Vasreen approached Noah and bent down to look into his eyes. Her gaze was intense but not threatening. Show me this bond, she said. Before Noah could ask what she meant, she gently placed one of her hands on his forehead and another on Guardian's. A strange sensation flowed through Noah, like someone leafing through his memories and feelings. When she removed her hands, Vasreen's eyes were glowing with an intense blue light. Unexpected, she said, turning to the other matriarchs. The change flows both ways. The humans did not know, but they have created a symbiotic link. The young ones of both species are evolving through contact. The revelation caused a stir in the hall. Dr. Bennett stepped forward. What do you mean, evolving? Your children gain cognitive enhancements, empathic abilities, neural efficiency. Our changed ones gain emotional depth, creative thinking, spiritual balance. Together they become more than either would be alone. The matriarchs withdrew to consider this information. The human delegation debated what it meant for Earth's future. Noah sat with Guardian, both trying to understand what Vasreen had seen in their connection. Are you afraid? Noah asked his alien friend. Yes and no, Guardian replied. Change is fearful, but path feels right. Hours later, the matriarchs returned with their decision. The changed ones will remain on Earth, Vasreen announced. They cannot return to their former selves, and the bond with human children now gives them purpose. But we will establish settlements on your world to maintain cultural connection with our kind. And what of future relations between our species? Senator Chen asked. We will not seek vengeance for what happened, Vasreen replied. Instead, we will study this unexpected bond. Perhaps it was meant to be, though it came through conflict rather than cooperation. She turned to Dr. Bennett. You sought to save your people without destroying ours. Though the method was invasive, the intention held wisdom. We will build on this foundation rather than tear it down. As the formal agreement was drafted, Noah realized that the future would be nothing like anyone had imagined. Earth would never be just for humans again, and the Viridians who had come as conquerors would remain as something entirely new, not quite servants, not quite equals, but partners in an evolutionary journey that had only just begun. On the shuttle, returning to Earth, Noah watched his planet grow larger in the viewport. Guardian sat beside him, also looking at the blue-green world below. Your home, Noah said. Our home now, Guardian replied. New path begins. 20 years had passed since the matriarchs arrived on Earth. The world was a different place now. Noah Bennett stood on the stage of the Interstellar Academy, watching the graduation ceremony with pride. At 36, he had become Earth's lead diplomat to the Viridian Collective. His own experiences with Guardian had shaped his understanding of both species. Guardian stood beside him as always. The alien had changed over the years too. His exoskeleton now showed the elaborate patterns that came with age and wisdom. Though still dedicated to Noah's protection, their relationship had evolved into a partnership of equals. The graduates look ready, Guardian said, his English now perfect after years of practice. Noah nodded. The first generation raised entirely with Viridian guardians. They're different from us in ways we're still discovering. The ceremony began as 500 young humans in blue uniforms filed into the hall. Beside each walked a Viridian guardian, who had been with them since childhood. These were not the original invasion force, but their children, born on Earth and raised to serve human young. Admiral Bennett, now with gray in his hair, gave the opening speech. He spoke of the strange path that had led to this day, how enemies had become protectors, how fear had turned to cooperation. Dr. Bennett sat in the front row. Her research over 2 decades had revealed the full truth of what her formula had created. The neurological changes in both species continued to develop with each generation. Human children raised with Viridian guardians showed remarkable abilities, enhanced intelligence, perfect emotional control, and even limited telepathic connections with their alien companions. The star student of the graduating class walked to the podium. Zoe Richards was 18, brilliant and confident. Her guardian, Talaris, stood proudly behind her. 20 years ago, our species were enemies, Zoe began. Today we are something new, not master and servant, not equal but separate. We are partners in an evolutionary journey. She explained how humans and Viridians had changed each other. The human children gained knowledge and abilities beyond what their parents possessed. The Viridians found purpose and emotional depth they had never known before. We stand at the beginning of a new chapter for both our species, she continued. The first joint mission to the stars leaves next month. Humans and Viridians together. exploring the galaxy not as conquerors but as seekers of knowledge. Noah felt a sense of wonder at how far they had come. The path had not been easy. There had been resistance on both sides. Some humans feared the changes in their children, calling it alien corruption. Some Viridians from the home worlds viewed the altered ones as no longer truly their kind. But the benefits of the partnership were too great to ignore. Earth had advanced quickly with Viridian help. Their technology combined with human creativity led to solutions for climate change, disease, and energy production. The Viridian homeworlds, suffering from industrial damage, were being healed with Earth's biological knowledge. After the ceremony, Noah walked with his parents through the Academy gardens. Viridian architecture blended with human design, organic, curves alongside straight lines, living plants incorporated into buildings. Did you ever imagine this outcome when you created the formula? Noah asked his mother. Dr. Bennett shook her head. Never. I was just trying to save our species without destroying theirs. What happened after was evolution, finding a way forward for both of us. Admiral Bennett pointed to a group of young graduates talking with their guardians. They don't remember a time before the Viridians. To them, this partnership is natural. Noah's own life had changed in ways he never expected. His enhanced abilities, developed through his bond with Guardian, had made him uniquely suited for diplomatic work. He could sense the emotional states of the Viridians, understanding nuances that other humans missed. The matriarchs wished to speak. With you, Guardian said, approaching the family. Elder Mother Vasreen has arrived for the graduation. They found the ancient matriarch in a quiet garden room. After 20 years on Earth, Vasreen had become the bridge between the two civilizations. Her massive form seemed to glow with internal light as she greeted them. The Bennett family, she said warmly. The ones who changed everything. For better or worse, Dr. Bennett replied. For better, Vasreen assured her. Though the path was unexpected, it has brought growth to both our peoples. She explained that the latest research from both Viridian and human scientists showed something remarkable. The neurological changes were becoming genetic. New human babies showed the enhanced capabilities without direct Viridian contact. Young Viridians born on Earth had the emotional capacity without the formula. Our species are adapting to each other at the most fundamental level, Vasreen said. In time, these changes will become permanent. And is that what you wanted? Admiral Bennett asked. When you decided not to seek revenge for what we did? Vasreen's eyes swirled with colors. What I wanted was the survival of my people. What I discovered was that survival sometimes requires transformation. Both our species faced extinction. Yours from our invasion, ours from our dying worlds. Together, we found a third path. After their meeting, Noah and Guardian walked to the edge of the Academy grounds where a monument stood to those lost in the invasion. Both human and Viridian names were carved in the stone. Do you ever regret what happened to your people? Noah asked. Guardian was quiet for a moment. My old self would not recognize who I am now, but I would not return to that self even if I could. We were conquerors, taking what we needed without concern for others. Now we are guardians, teachers, partners. We have purpose beyond survival. He turned to Noah. Your mother did not enslave us. She opened a door neither species knew existed. As the sun set, Noah watched the new graduates celebrating with their Viridian guardians. Tomorrow, many would begin training for the joint space mission. Humans and Viridians would explore the stars together, each species making up for the weaknesses of the other. The invasion that had nearly destroyed humanity had instead transformed it. The formula meant to stop aggression had created connection. The species that came to threaten Earth now served its children, but not as slaves or tools. They served as guides, protectors, and partners in an evolutionary journey that was just beginning. Noah felt Guardian's hand on his shoulder, a gesture the alien had learned from humans. New worlds await, Guardian said, looking up at the first stars appearing in the evening sky. Yes, Noah agreed, and we'll explore them together.